Hey everyone. Stephen Chong, it's so great to be joining you here in Denver, Colorado. How's everyone doing today? Ready for some aquascaping? Yeah. All right, hands-in workshop. It's gonna be more demonstration than participation, but in exchange, we promise to make a pretty awesome aquascape, so hope you all are looking forward to it. My name is Stephen Chong. I am a competitive aquascaper. The weird thing about the competitive aquascaping hobby, and things are changing slightly as the industry gets more developed, but generally speaking, the highest level competitors have never been pros. They were always amateurs, and for the most part, they're still like amateurs or semi-pro, semi-amateur. Definitely, we're all amateurs at one point. When we talk about contests, we're specifically talking about the international aquascaping contests. Probably the most famous being Aqua Design Amano's International Aquatic Plant Layout Contest. But there's also the IIAC from Taiwan. They might have some continuation issues, but very famous, very respected. KIAC from the Korea International Aquascaping Contest, and CIPS, the China International Pet Show. That is a really cool contest because if you do well, and if you're number one from your country, they actually invite you over to China to compete in a on-site contest as well. I once entered, got representation, and went as the representative of Japan because I was living in Japan at the time. Anyway, so for myself, competitive aquascaping is kind of always what I've been into. Really nerding out about this. I'm probably the most competitively decorated aquascaper in the United States. In 2020, I took World Rank 2. That's the gold prize of the International Aquatic Plant Layout Contest. In 2018, I ranked World Rank 5. In between there, 2019 at World Rank 15, which is still the honor prize. And I've been in the top 10 of the AGA contest for the last 5 or 6 years, taking 2 second places and 1 third place in the 300 plus liter category. Here we're going to be really doing more of a contest aquascaping type of layout today. By the way, folks, can I get some hands? What do you guys like about aquascaping? What brought you into the hobby?
I got into it when I first saw what Amano was doing with Rikia.
Yeah, so we have a man here. I really resonate with that. Seeing the magic of what Takashi Amano did with Rikia inside of the aquarium. Anyone else?
Just fish keeping.
Just fish keeping?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It's the science and the art of it. So maintaining a beautiful aquascape and being able to kind of be like a maestro with the different growth rates of plants to create just beauty that just stops you in your tracks.
Science and art coming together to make beauty. I think that one of the things that keeps people in the hobby is that it's so multifaceted. The more you do, another layer, because there's the equipment, and there's the art, and there's the plants, and the fish, photography. There's so many aspects and more that you can delve into. For myself, I actually started in very similar places this man here. I have always been into art. Even when I was a little kid, I was a painter, and my teacher was a man named Hiroshi Tagami, who in my opinion is the greatest painter from Hawaii. He paints amazing oil art paintings. He's passed on since then, but mountains and forest. In Hawaii, we have Mauka and Makai, the mountain and the sea. And those two styles of landscape painting were the core of my upbringing in art as a little kid. And so when I encountered Amano's work, I've always loved fish and plants as well. And when I came across his books, I thought, this is incredible. This is Tagami's painting world, but combined with living things coming together. And it's just so bright. Compared to a painting, when you walk into a room with one of these set up, it just immediately captures your attention. You're sucked into this whole world inside. And the first plant aquarium I ever saw was Rikia, and just seeing it covered with bubbles all over, and just how healthy and happy the fish were in that sparkling wonder world. That's what told me I needed to do this hobby. I'm in. And so when I moved to Tokyo and finally settled down, had a place to live for a long term, I was living in Tokyo doing marketing for IBM, and I wanted to expand the hobby, so I met up with and joined the Tokyo Aquascaping Union, Takayuki Fukada and Masashi Ono are my two teachers. Fukada-san being one of the world's two-time world champions, Ono-san being one of the most decorated aquascapers in the world, having probably more plates than anyone but Josh Sim. I was blessed to have that environment, but essentially, what the message was for me was, you can be one of us, but you've got to want it. More than anything, the thing that Fukada-san taught me that really hit me the hardest was just how much he worked. When I went into his fish room, he has like two 120, like this 60-50 competitive contest aquariums, but he also has 120, 45 just for plants, and a 90, and a 75, and two 60s, and a wall of 5-gallon breeder tanks. And I was just like, how do you deal with it? And he's like, 5 to 6 hours of maintenance every day. Jeez, right? I recently did a workshop with some of my juniors, students in Japan, and Ono-san, to start off the time discussing, he wanted to ask me, what time is it in New York right now? And I said, it's 5 in the morning. And Ono-san said, wow, that's super early, right, Steven? He's setting this up for his students to understand something. And I'm like, no, not really. I usually wake up at this time. And he's like, really, why? Because I'm usually aquascaping at this time before I go to work every day, about 2 hours before the kids wake up. And then Ono-san turns to the students, he's like, guys, this is what makes someone reach the top level in the hobby, but you've got to pour your passion into it. It's a weird place to be for those who are aiming to that level, but I had a decision. You're either going to be normal or you're going to be not. Essentially what the club leaders told me when we first met. Yeah, it's a sacrifice, it's tough, but like none of us are here because we're normal. That said, most people are normal, right? But we want everyone to love aquascaping. We want everyone to be incorporated into this hobby. And so the thing that I think is really valuable that we competitive aquascapers can try to relay for all types of hobbyists and all people in the broader aquascaping community is like have goals, have things that you want to accomplish, because whether or not it's like a number, are you going to be third in the world? Are you going to be in the top 100? Are you just wanting to participate in the AGA? Or do you want to have just a beautiful centerpiece in your living room? All of these are goals, but when you want to get the most out of it, like how much thought, how much love can you pour into that endeavor? So let's start today with this aquascape. Today we're going to be using rocks, and we're going to be making something kind of similar to my 2018 World Rank 5 layout, which was a cenote-based aquascape. Has anyone heard of a cenote? Yeah, you want to give an explanation?
Oh, okay. It's like a freshwater spring, essentially.
Yeah, there's like, especially in Mexico, there are places where like underground running water causes things to fall out, and like a very nice symmetric or like circular swinging type of cave is formed. It's a theme that's been done many times in aquascaping, but Tommy is a really hardcore guy. Really hardcore guy. Normally I wouldn't do this type of layout for like an on-site workshop, but he's a hardcore guy. And I thought, all right, let's put on a show. Welcome, guys. So we're gonna get started. This is waterproof duct tape. And for an on-site workshop, I normally wouldn't do this. You probably wouldn't see a technique like this used in most like Instagram or like show aquascapes, because like it doesn't look as good from the sides. That's not the point though. If one of the various aquarium companies out there wants to take this idea and make a nicer product that does the same thing, go for it. We definitely could use it. What are we going to use this for? I'm going to start off this time just taping up the side of the aquarium, because I want to be able to freely attach rock to the side of the aquarium without worrying about scratching the glass. You're going to be able to use this one, Tommy. Has anyone heard of the use of reflections in contest aquascapes? So essentially, like when you see the front of the aquarium like this, you're able to see the whole thing, right? You're not able to just see what's in the middle, but you can see this glass here, right? you can see my hand through the glass here, right? So the point is that this is different from a painting because these glass walls on the side are still visible in your field. For most aquascaping contests, we are competing by sending in just a front view of the aquarium. We're taking one photo. It's something that Amano-san really drove into the hobby. And I think it's good. I mean, in one sense, I think that it's great for aquarists to be able to think about what their tank looks from all sides and angles. It's another type of experience. But like the discipline that you can gain from thinking about this one view and how it comes together, it's another part of the art. It's another type of artistry. And the greatest thing about the online contests, the international contests, is that it gives the whole world a chance to participate. That's one thing we really love about this hobby, is that it brings people together. I tell you that even though we have all Americans in here, pretty much, when you go to Budapest, when you go to Taiwan, Hong Kong, anywhere in the world where there are aquascapers, you will find kindred souls right off the bat. And the fact that this hobby, because of that front-facing photo, allows the whole world to compete and interact together, it's a beautiful thing. That said, getting back to what we're doing here is when you do have that front-face design mentality, you're going to have to do something with the sides of the aquarium because it's visible, right? So you have two options. When the tank is filled with water, both sides of the aquarium become glass mirrors, essentially. What that means is that, like, if my fist is here, you're going to be able to see a reflection of my fist on the side of the glass in the aquarium. And it's interesting because, like, you could do something like have one piece of hardscape like this, have a reflection, and make something totally different in the back to give, like, a view of a whole different universe back there. That's one thing you can do. Or you can position a piece of hardscape like this so that they're seeing the front, but on the other side, they're going to see the back of that hardscape on the glass, and that also might create some type of cool effect. The other thing you can do is just block it off completely. Even to this day, this is still a skill because, like, folks who aren't trained to do it or trained to think about it, they might not have the awareness that the reflection is there, and this at least shows intentionality. Or like in some of the greatest contest aquascapes, you might have like one side that's blocked off like this and the other side that has some sort of reflection. But there's also top level aquascapes where both sides are blocked off. The point is that with all the space in the aquarium, front to back, left, right, top to bottom, you have to be doing something. You want to use it to its maximum effect. Everything inside of the aquarium has a role and function in telling the story of the whole layout. The other thing is, this is not the only way to do it. The other way is just to be good. The other way to do it is just to think through how to piece the aquascape together and make sure that it fits snugly into the side. And then any open space in between rock, you just jam like black sponge, or you can also like cut off pieces of black rubber and glue it to your hardscape to make sure that any place like the rocks or wood are going to touch the side of the glass. Instead, they're going to be touching black rubber that's glued onto them. Like rock, I know this little piece of the rock is going to be touching the glass, so I glue a piece of rubber onto that piece before fitting it in. And the reason why I'm saying black is because just like we were talking about reflections and how things reflect off the glass, if something white is facing the side of the glass, it's going to appear in the reflection. So, like, ironically, this also has white on this side, right? So, if I were to take this piece of tape and stick it right here, and then take a photo of it for the contest, you would be able to see the white on this side of the tape, like about here-ish. So that would look really terrible, right? So don't do that. In this case, what's happened is I've taped all the way to the front edge. So there is no more leftover glass for you to see the white on. So you're only going to be able to see this black all the way back. And so when rock touches this part, the rock is going to cast a shadow onto whatever bit of tape is visible. And so it'll basically disappear inside of the photo. That might raise the question, what do you do if you want to use tape, but you want to start the hardscape like from here, for instance? You don't want to bring the hardscape all the way to the front. You want to start the hardscape back here, right? What do you do? In that case, you use this, which is double-sided black tape. It's black on this end, and if you rip off the red part, it's black on the other end as well. And so, in that case, the material facing the outside of the tank is also black. So it'll disappear when hardscape touches it. However, this is more expensive, so we don't use it if we don't need to. But like, this kind of tape is also a super valuable tool in many other uses. If you guys watch one of my most recent videos on YouTube, oh, by the way, follow me, Steve Scapes on YouTube and Instagram. I have a new series called the Master Skills series, and the most recent episode is about how to use wood. One technique I introduced was you can use wire to hold wood in place while you're adjusting the angles and positioning. And tape is what you can use to very easily and quickly change where the wire is attached or anchored to the aquarium. I mean, this stuff is actually, this is much stronger than what I was using in Japan. Kosi Mixo. I don't know, I just bought whatever Amazon recommended to me. But like, on one hand, I feel like the strength means that it's really strong, which is good. On the other hand, it's a little bit harder to pull off and work with compared to the tape I was using in Japan. So anyone here know why it's really great that this aquarium has 60 depth front to back? So the more room you have from the front of the aquarium to the back of the aquarium, I mean, as an aquarist, it's a good thing anyway, because you have more surface area, more gas exchange in the water for the plants and for the fish. But the more important thing is that there's more area front to back of the aquarium in order to create additional layers of interest. Make close, make far, make high, make low. And the more footprint the aquarium has, the easier it is to set up a stable foundation that will hold up big pieces of hardscape, which is what you're gonna see do today. You know those rocks over there? I was really struggling with them this morning, but the thing that I struggle with most is that the one I want to use as the father's stone was not big enough. But that's okay. We'll use other rocks to make it look bigger than it is. In October, I had the chance to go out to Taiwan to visit the Life Aqua shop and set up another aquarium there. We were using Frodo stone from Adam. Tommy brings it in, so you guys should definitely check that out. There's no other rock that has quite the same rock-likeness to its texture and face. But like, we were using giant ones. Like, the main one was this big. And there was actually a bigger one that we decided not to use. But when you see a photo of that aquarium on my Instagram, I think you will see that that size rock, one that's essentially as big as this aquarium is the right fit for that tank. I mean, granted, that's like a 9-foot tank. But just the same, like, you really need big material in order to make an impact inside the aquarium. I think this is one of the most valuable things that we can get out of a workshop like this, is that it gives you a whole different sense of what is needed in order to make an actual visual impact in the aquarium. Because one thing that we're trying to develop when you're like getting into this type of high impact or very complex diorama style is the ability to see as opposed to look. This is a really interesting distinction, I think, one I learned from photography. But essentially, the way that we are engaging with the world on a day-to-day basis is looking. We're using our common sense. We're thinking about, oh man, those rocks are big. But it's a different thing from seeing, which is to be objective in what your eye is actually interpreting. The analogy I usually use is if you take a picture of the sky, your brain will say, what color is this sky? Blue, right? But if you bring that picture into Photoshop and then you start sampling actual cells inside of the photo, do you think you'll only find blue? No, you'll find lots of purple and green and orange on the outskirts. But the point is that your eye is seeing something in an objective sense that your mind is not interpreting that way. Oh, is anyone familiar with the nature aquarium style versus like the diorama style? So in competitive aquascaping, and Josh in his video on Green Aqua, which I highly recommend, talked about the wild style versus the traditional style. So Takashi Amano had kind of an established traditional nature aquarium style. Usually have like supporting characters, but it's mostly like 2 or 3 big pieces of hardscape that make up the majority of the layout. Iwagumi is emblematic of the NA style, and it's also like, as a representative of NA style, kind of like emblematic of that type of mentality, because if you go over 3 stones, then you're just adding more additional, often unnecessary complexity. That's right. So it's wild, like the wild diorama style, versus Zen. Zen meaning simplicity. But actually, like these 2 competing things, in order to get better at the quote-unquote wild style, you have to learn to simplify. You have to learn to make each part of the scape speak up, which means getting rid of unnecessary complexity. Zen is inherently a good thing, I think. In a workshop I attended that Amano was holding, he once said, an interesting exercise you can do is fill your entire, just like throw wood into the aquarium, fill it all the way to the top, and then take pieces out until you get a good layout. So there is the Zen style, often the traditional nature aquarium where folks have like a few pieces of hardscape that they're working with, versus the wild style where people are using, aspect ratio, making big things and small things, large, small, near, far, and like going like photorealistic diorama. Now, of these 2 styles though, which do you think is the more beginner friendly? To me, in my opinion, again, this depends on what you want to do, right? What you want to accomplish in the hobby. There is a paradox in aquarium size where, on one hand, like hobbyists and beginners think that they should use or they should buy a small aquarium. It kind of makes sense, right? A small aquarium costs less money. It is, a smaller investment to get started, get your hands wet, like you're gonna be keeping small fish. But for those of us who keep aquariums, which is actually easier to keep and maintain? This tank or a 5-gallon? This one, right? Because the more water there is, the more stability you have. The easier it is to make conditions that are good for the plants and the fish. But in the same way, just like creating an NA style with a few pieces of hardscape versus creating a diorama style like this with lots of hardscape, this is actually more beginner friendly, easier if you're trying to improve really quickly. Like with the nature aquarium style, when you're trying to find Zen, you only have a few pieces, right? You only have a few pieces to work with, so it's harder. You have to use everything you have. And also, you might not have the right piece. Or even if you do have the right piece, it takes more instinct, it takes more finesse to make them really speak up, to really make them work in the design of the aquarium. Whereas like when you have more and you're doing more, well, it's easier to like put things together and make it work. And also, it's much more objective. Like with the Iwagumi style, 3 rocks, 1 rock, 2 rocks, 3 rocks, right? But you cannot screw up. You have to be perfect. Each placement has to have that finesse, that aha moment. The stone, like all the stones to the back, And, Tommy has like every type of rock you could ever want back here. Aqua Rocks, Colorado, everyone. Anyway, but the hardest, most painful one to work with, which you can also try back there, is pohai or Hakkai stone. Because of its smoothness and each rock having, it's really different from what we have here, up here, dark Seidu, or from the Frodo stone from Adam we were talking about, or from the dragon stone, Oko stone that's very popular. This Hakkai stone is really unique and different. Amano-san used these in his Iwagumi. This is like maybe the most core, the most like soul touching of all of the like impact right here of the different rocks you can use for Iwagumi style. But this is by far the hardest rock to use because, first of all, because it's heavy. So this is dark Seidu, right? This is Hakkai. I think we have similar size here. Come up. Just tell me about the weight. Try hold that for a second. Okay. Now try hold this little one.
Double.
It's about double, right? Okay, so first of all, these things are heavy, heavy as heck. But the other thing is that this rock can become combined with others. It can like fit together with its friends, combined like this, or like this, or like together. Like they fit together, right? And it's easy to glue these things together. Each of these, this is a beautiful one, by the way, but it has so much character and so much uniqueness of shape. This rock, in Japanese we say, shou ga tsuyoi. It has a big presence, it has a big voice by itself. So you cannot fit this and just like have it sitting there. It has to be working in harmony with everything else. And when you have a Zen Iwagumi layout, every stone fitting has to be perfect. Whereas with this is very objective. Like if you're making a canyon out of Seidu, you either got it or you don't. Either it looks natural or it doesn't. You can see it, it's very easy to tell whether you're improving or not. And that objectiveness, like when you have just 3 of these stones, is it good? Is it bad? What makes it good? What makes it bad? It's very difficult to tell. It's an abstract quality. It takes instinct and sense, like raw sense. And that type of raw sense, in my opinion, is not something that you can objectively explain. It's best picked up by doing a whole lot of aquariums. If you're just doing more and more and more aquariums, you'll get the skill eventually. You'll get the instinct to do the nature aquarium style layouts with less hardscape. But it's hard to see, it's really hard to track your improvement. Whereas with the objective dioramascapes, that rock either looks close or it looks far. It's very simple. Or like if I make a drawing and then I'm going to photorealistically try to recreate that drawing, it either looks like it or it doesn't, And if it doesn't, why not? You think, why not? You start to pay more attention to details. You start to see instead of look. You start to realize where you're wrong. The diorama style teaches you where you were right and where you were wrong. And as you do more and more of them, you start to get the sense of balance, heaviness versus lightness, thickness versus thinness, openness, close, space. You start to get the feeling of what is right and what is wrong, and then you can do one of these. I might add more tape, but this is the tape that I want to use to get started, where I know that having these in place will give me confidence that I'm not going to smash the aquarium. The other thing is I think that you want to develop the skills that you don't need to rely on something like this, but just like with all things, the harder you make it for yourself, the more time it takes, right? So this is not the most beautiful solution, but given the time and resource you have in putting together a contest aquascape, every competitive aquascaper has 1 year, right? It's a resource. How do you use that year in order to bring your vision to reality? Do you want to be spending your time on making it look nice for yourself in person, or do you want to spend more time on getting towards that final photo? By the way, what do you guys think of this? Have you seen this before? I mean, those who are in Tommy's shops probably have, but this is like expanded PVC. Everyone finds their own solution. Maybe I'll try this. I have been in most of my older aquascapes using urethane rubber, like a rubber mat, which is heavy, so it sinks by itself. But I mean, we're gonna put lots of rocks on top of this anyway. It's not gonna float up. It's tough. Also, with this, I don't think you care either. I mean, I've used this in different types of arts and crafts as well. You're not gonna care whether you screw up this nice surface, so we can glue things to it. And having this will protect the bottom of the aquarium, right? That's the important thing. Oh, also, why do you think that this mat is smaller than the actual footprint of the aquarium, as opposed to being exact fit? Yeah, exactly. Because if it was an exact fit and it went up to the front of the aquarium, no matter what soil you put in, you'd see it, right? Whereas like if it's just a little bit smaller, what's gonna happen is soil will fit in on all the edges and then it'll disappear, right? What also disappear is whatever the heck goes in back here, so. This is just filler, because aqua soil is expensive, but also because this won't compact like aqua soil. Sometimes in like heavy diorama aquascapes, we might bring the soil all the way up here, right? But plants don't need 12 inches of aqua soil to grow in. They need like 4 or 5. So maybe if like this much was soil, that's all you need. But then like, what do you do with the rest? If you use all soil, then the bottom of the soil will get like compacted and gross and lots of algae and things might grow in there. But with pebbles, there's more breathing space and like bacteria can use it as a habitat. You can imagine like, this is kind of like the inside of your canister filter. Actually, the thicker the aquascape, now the less work I have to reach the top of the aquarium. But when you have a layout where you're trying to use as much of the front face as possible, you have a design that uses a lot of height. One thing you can do is like just bring the front soil or sand super low. And then the important thing is to keep it as straight and flat as possible in a contest photo, because your ability to go end to end to use all the space. What you don't want is an area like this. Like it's easy for the aquarium to happen. In some designs, it kind of looks nice to have like a high place in front. But generally speaking, the way that international contest judges think about it, the way I think about it, this is kind of a waste. The fact that you couldn't stop this from happening is a sign of where your skills are at. In this layout, we're going to start with the left side of the aquarium. So I'm just gonna start putting in the main pieces. Important thing is to have a plan for the biggest parts of the layout first. Basically, you don't want to be focusing on the details at the very beginning. Big to small. If I had telepathic powers and I could just put in all the hardscape, like floating it into the right position without having to move anything physically, I would always start with the biggest stone first. Put it in place and then fit everything around it. Unfortunately, that's not the physical reality. So sometimes you have to balance the importance of finding the main stone's position first, along with the needs of actually putting the rest of the base, the foundation that's going to hold it in place. Regardless, these things, the biggest, strongest elements and the foundation are the most important to the aquascape. Things like detail roots and like pebbles and stuff, all of that out of your mind at this stage. We only care about the big picture. I'm gonna start off by grabbing a bunch of these small to mid-sized rocks and some of these smaller ones too. I just have little things to hold in, to be able to jam into place when I'm finding the position of the bigger stones. My preference over this would be large pieces of styrofoam, because styrofoam is big, it holds its shape, it's light, and no matter how I smash styrofoam into the side of the glass, it's not going to actually scratch the glass. It's styrofoam, right? I'd say that I can't really scratch the glass with cardboard either, but the only thing about this is that it doesn't hold its shape, right? So you kind of have to make like a triangle or something similar to that. But what you can do with this is basically we want something to be able to prop hardscape in place at a moment's notice. Once we find the right position, the other thing that I can use besides this is an assistant, you know? Okay. Just to have these on hand, because we're going to be putting some pretty huge pieces of rock in there. And I want to be able to have something to jam into place to hold things in place. Okay. So the reason why I'm putting these pieces of tape around is that I can grab it and use it to quickly put a piece of rock into place, or just temporarily, okay? All of this is like, how do you hold something in place temporarily until like you're ready to super glue it? So, because it's 3 steps. Put the rock in, put it in the position that you want to, and then finalize its position. Can you believe that in another era, we are actually arguing about whether or not people should use glue in the aquarium? Like, it's not the soul, it's not the tradition. True, but I mean, like, if you're gonna spend months and months of your life putting something like this together, do you really want it to be able to poke out of place, like, just because you bumped into it? All right. Okay, so this is the first stone. And the moment I saw this one, I thought, wow, like, we have to use it because it'll make the workshop so much easier. Just joking. But like, there's so many things I really liked about this rock the moment I saw it, because just by putting it in there, we're getting these nice shadows and details. Like, it's really easy for folks to place hardscape into an aquarium like this, but straight up and down like this, there's no shadows at all. Sometimes you can't really see the features of the rock, but like, it's based on light and shadow, contrast. Those are the things that allow you to see the features of a stone. Shadow also creates negative space. So like, whereas this rock is kind of sitting, it's very boring, right? But the moment you put it up like this, now it's like a little bit off balance. There's a little bit of motion to it. Sometimes you'll want like flat, bright, because it's going to like say this is contrasting against this, right? So having stones like this make the detail and contrast here even more powerful. But the point is that it can't all be like that, and it can't all be like this. If anything, I have the problem of setting too many like this and then having the whole aquarium be black. And then the other thing I really like about this piece is that this dovetail out here, I want to make sure not to lose that under the soil, actually, because this piece that's sticking out in the back kind of gives the sense that it's inviting you into the back of the aquarium. Now, the only question is how to handle everything above this stone, which was the main issue I was facing earlier when playing with this inside the aquarium. The other thing is, I will make mistakes. It's not like this, everything goes in perfect, ta-da. It's finding the right position for everything. So never hesitate to break down and redo anything that you're doing. That said, we tried to do as much pre-planning as possible here. So. Yeah, thank you. Hey, the trick is I don't want this rock to surrender on me, so maybe what I'll do is push that up there. Okay. Okay, you can let go. Okay, so what we're trying to do here is create 2 different layers with these 2 different rocks. So this rock is coming forward, right? This rock, the cool thing about this rock is that there's a pocket of air here. So you can, this area, this emptiness here, delineates this and this as different spaces there's one stone going back this way, another stone pointing this way. In other words, this rock goes behind this one, right? But the important thing here is that we have enough, okay. This rock, what I was really struggling with, and I think we might still struggle with, is trying to make this rock say, I'm a rock. And also have like the right weight so that it is not speaking over the main stone, but also not like losing to it either. Ever seen one of these? Worker's spatula? Really great for maintenance, aquarium maintenance, but also for sand leveling. I just want to make sure that there's enough space that you can't, because this is the thing, right? I said that you have to be able to have the skill to make this flat. There has to be a way to make sure that you can get in there and do that. Not that it has to stay flat now, I'm just making sure that it is possible. Okay, so I think that's good. Like, since Tommy's bottle has that nice nozzle on the end, that'll be perfect for getting into really difficult to reach areas with the glue. But this is more like, you know, I can access this super easily. So just jamming it in there, pouring a good amount of glue on top of it. This type of tweezers is like the best and easiest to fit paper. So we're using thin super glue, and we need to jam the paper into the areas that we're going to use to fasten the rock in place. So like at this moment, this rock is propping this one up, right? But once like this big rock gets glued in position, and we also fit in some other smaller rocks under and around it in order to hold it in place, we won't need this one anymore. Tommy, your toilet paper is too nice. If you guys are buying toilet paper specifically for this, I recommend cheaper, thinner, junkier stuff. My experience, I don't know about you, Tommy, but my experience has been that the junker and cheaper toilet paper absorbs the super glue more easily. And we're really splitting hairs because pretty much anything will work. In fact, I can even like throw in a bit of that in there. Okay. Get that in there. And this will essentially turn the paper and aqua soil into like a firm bond, plastic that holds things in place. Also, when you're super gluing, here's a tip. Be careful what kind of gloves you're wearing. Like, it either has to be like super, like if you have rubber gloves, then it's not really a problem, except that you might destroy the rubber when the super glue gets on it. But like with these types of gloves, if I have them on my hand and the super glue lands on it, the super glue can go in and start trying to bond the glove with my hand, and it'll burn and smoke comes out. So pull your hand out right away, or if you're wearing one of these gloves while super gluing, just be very careful. The answer to the question, how many places do you want to super glue? The answer is as many as possible. Because especially, like, Tommy, you said that this aquarium is going to stand for 8 or 9 months here, right? Yeah, I don't want it to fall apart at like the 3rd month or something when someone's doing maintenance. When I was talking about everyone has the resource of a year in putting their contest aquarium together, this is also like a project management type of thing. Like, how do you use your time? I think like the most typical way people would imagine using their time for a nature aquarium is like hardscape in one day, then I'm going to plant the next day or the next couple days, fill the tank, and then keep the tank for 6 months, something like that. My process is more like storyboard, plan, study nature, think through the design of what I want to make for 5 to 6 months. Study constantly, thinking, drawing, designing, 5 to 6 months. And then hardscape process, this, 2 to 3 months. Planting, maybe a couple weeks, 2 weeks. Yeah, if it's simpler planting, maybe a week or a few days. But like being very deliberate and thinking through it, right? And then the process of actually bringing the aquarium from initial fill to photo ready, 3 months. Sometimes only 2 months, if that's all that's left over. But when we're competing at that highest level, it's like we're playing a game of chicken. and the guy who's able to spend more time and more energy on thinking through the design and hardscaping until no, I gotta fill the tank already. Whoever chickens out first, has spent less time on that design and hardscape step of the process. So I feel pretty confident that that's solid, but I want to, back it up with some more stones. That said, before we get there, because even the things that are in the back, if they're visible, are going to affect the overall layout, right? So my initial instinct is want to jam some medium-sized stones in here and then immediately glue it to get things stable. But I have a big stone that I want to fit in back here. I want to make sure I fit it in before thinking about the rest. Okay. But I actually think this will fit. All right, looks like it. Yeah. Question is, does it fit where we want it to fit? Okay. So what I'm seeing here is, there's a lot of interesting detail in this spot, right? And because so much of the aquarium is going to be darker, you want to have some of these details. I'm anticipating already that it's going to be like this, okay? That the bigger stones that go on top are going to cast a shadow. But I want enough of what's going on in here to be visible. So if I instead chose a completely flat, boring face to show here, none of this would be left over when the shadow's cast over. It just disappears, right? But if I have something like this, some of it will remain. And if it doesn't, we can always just glue little rocks onto it until we have what we need. But every bit that we can get done at this stage, we want to take advantage of. The other thing that I'm thinking about looking at this is, that's looking kind of flat. Do I want it more like this? Because the idea is that this bottom layer is kind of pointing that way. There's a downward slope. So in order to get that in position, we need a medium-sized stone. Okay. And then you push on it and see how stable is that. It looks pretty stable. And the cool thing is that it's kind of a jagged area around here, and it'll be digging into the aqua soil. The most boring and terrible thing you can do is to have something facing the audience like this. It's super flat, it's super square, it's boring. The rock is at the exact same angle as the soil, right? Whereas with this, if I throw aqua soil on it, maybe leave it, the soil comes up and down and in and out. So you have this interesting movement, even at that bottom level of visibility. This rock itself curves, and then there's details that the soil and rock form together. Now, as we're doing this, a lot of these things will get covered over. You might not notice it, but if you remember that it's there, then when you're preparing for that final photo, you can always rip plants out or move soil around to get back to revealing that detail that you had before, right? It's actually no, it's not even touching. This rock and this rock are not, they are touching? Maybe in one place, okay, maybe. All right, so you can just throw a little one in there. No, that's too big. What I've actually been doing with the Seiru stones at my house is I found a landscaping shop near my house that sold bags of landscape gravel and also powderized landscape gravel. So if I was at home right now, I'd grab that bag of powderized one, I'd throw it on top of here, and I'd just super glue it together. This is fine though. Yeah, I can put soil on this. Or I can be diligent, put paper. But I think that in order to hold this place, I'm going to need to slide some medium in there. I'm just fitting medium-sized rocks. I'm also trying to pick the ones that I don't think are that incredible, the ones I don't really care about, but I'm just trying to fit them in place. Oh, see, that one is so small that it's not grabbing onto anything. Okay. All right. But because at this point, these guys really are just filler. They're just going in to hold things in. Okay. So Tommy told me that I could buy dark Seidu from him as well. And so I was like, oh, but then I don't want to use the really nice ones. No, but he said that the same quality as what we're using here exists in the back, so all good. The other thing as you do this is you could consider, where am I going to put the filter stuff? I don't know, Tom, if you have a piece of plastic or anything, but one thing you could do is if you had like really nice, clear plexiglass type of divider, and if you have holes drilled into it, you can fit that in here, and then you have essentially a place for your outflow pipe that's also not going to be visible from the front of the aquarium. The old common sense is take out all your gear when you take the photo for your contest layout, but in many of my aquascapes, especially my 2019 work, Amano's River, if you look in that aquarium, the plants are actually, they're not growing up and down like this. The Potomagetan gai are blown sideways. So the way that they would look in a natural stream is the water crashes over the plants and they bend with the water, right? The reason why they're bending with the water in the photo is because there's hidden pumps and the filter is on during the photo because the hardscape was made so that there were a place for pumps to be fit in afterwards and for the filter and extra filtration to be included inside the aquarium during the photo shoot. And so like the outflow was hidden over here behind big rock over this way, and the inflow was over here, hidden behind with a big rock on this side. And so the water just went swoosh and pushed the plants down. And then what was really funny was I also entered the same tank in the Taiwan contest, but I made it a wood layout. So I had to take those two big rocks out and put wood on top. But with the inflow and outflow, I wrapped the inflow and outflow pipes with tang so that all you would see is green in the back. And you couldn't see the inflow and outflow pipes, but they were in there blowing the plants again for the photo. So I am going to leave a little space back here. I don't know if we'll end up making some protected area for the filter. But the other cool thing is, like, if you do that, and if the filter inflow is going all the way down under the layer of gravel that we were putting in. Say the gravel was, if afterwards we had the barrier, we filled the gravel to about here, okay? And we have the filter inflow in there. The filter inflow actually sucked dirt and junk out from the gravel into the filter, where you can remove it from the pre-filter, maintaining, the flow inside of the gravel in the back here. And again, making it similar in condition to the inside of your canister filter. So the inside, the back layer of the diorama aquarium will actually act kind of like more filtration.
Kind of what are your rules or ideas about selecting plant leaf size?
Okay, so that's a good question. We had a question about plant leaf size in relationship to the layout, to the hardscape, the design, because as mentioned, so it's true for plants, and it's also true for basically everything, stone and wood included. Things that are bigger, things that are nearer tend to look bigger, right? Whereas things that are farther tend to look smaller. I think a good rule of thumb is when you're trying to create distance, like if you have very small leafed plants and very tiny like you want to make a mountain that's very far away around here, it should be like that big. It should be like, literally, this is way too big to make a faraway mountain. You need more like a piece of gravel to go in there. But the farther you want to make something look, the smaller it should be in the back, but also actually in the very front up here, because the more minute and fine you can make the details up here, the bigger everything else is going to seem by comparison. If I put this here, it doesn't make this rock look that big, maybe big by comparison, but if I don't use that. If I have rocks like this size up front over here, this is being compared to this in size contrast, then this make this look much bigger. So in the same way, you could theoretically put like HC, then Monte Carlo, HC, right? Just for that type of size contrast. Or just go Monte Carlo HC. I think that's the case where it's not a big difference. Generally speaking, there's no rule about what type of plant size should go where, because not every aquascape is meant to be one of these kind of high impact, high distance dioramascapes either, right? So what is the story? That's the ultimate thing. Are the plants that you're choosing the stone that you're choosing, the wood, how does each of those fit into the story that you're trying to create? And you can think of like all of this space is also not just one photo, but a continuation. Like if one part of the aquascape introduces you, another pulls you in, takes you to the back, you're visually guiding the person through the aquascape with each part of it, from the rocks and the wood and the plants and fish. And each of those, what is their role to play in the story that's being told? That gets back to studying nature, right? Because especially in this, I'm not saying that all aquascaping has to be nature aquarium, but that's kind of where we are culturally. The idea is that, especially the one that we took from Mono, is that we make these works to recreate stories from nature or recreate some essence from nature. And I think for me, that's what I want to do. I want to use my learnings from nature to tell a story that touched my heart or made me feel nostalgic or made me feel some emotional connection to some aspect of beauty from nature. And putting every piece of what goes into this is trying to work together to tell this story. So let's see here. Because the really scary part comes after this, right? The really scary part is going to be fitting the biggest rock essentially right here. So what we want is the viewer to be pulled in from this side, be led through the aquarium. They feel like there's an empty space back here and there's a big impact rock right here. But we are preparing for that big impact rock so that it will not move. It will not fall on us. So, to get there, I still have a lot of... Okay, I'm pretty confident in all of this.
What fish would you put in?
Good question. I mean, because it's a cave fish, or a cave scene, one cool thing you could do is glass catfish, right? That is the fish that really took my master Fukada-san's 2016 World Championship layout, Mighty Cave, over the edge. That innovative use of glass cat to tell the cave story. That is a really nice fit for an aquascape like this. Obviously something lighter colored, like gold neon, would really stand out. The number one job a fish has is to be seen. So if they're not seen in the picture, at least they're not doing their job, right? If the aquarium is not meant to be seen in a contest, then you're thinking of the fish in a different way. But even then, the fish are there to give you a certain experience with the overall layout, right? So think of the fish first. The fish can be your jump-off point to create a story. I want to use Beryllius. Okay, then it's a fast-flowing stream. I want to use, rainbow shiners. Then all of the hardscape and plant choice has to fit around that fish, right? In this case, we have a theme, which is cenote. So the fish choice would have to go with that. Then the question becomes, what is the best choice for telling that story? And then in the hierarchy of considerations to make that choice, the number one consideration, will the fish be seen? So a light-colored fish is probably the right way to go. But then one layer deeper than that would be, how does that fish fit into the context of the story? The glass cat is really nice because the parts of it that you do see will be, they'll be silvery or white, right? And also, they fit into that cave story contextually. A blind fish fits into the story contextually. It's very nice. For my 2018 Aquascape, the title of the work was Butterfly Hideaway, and I was using pseudomogil white butterfly rainbows. And same, it's a very light-colored fish, so it contrasts against the black and dark rocks. And a cenote opens up at the top, right? And there's a rainforest above it. So I had memories of going to the San Francisco Natural Museum, and when you go to the canopy level of the rainforest, it's just there's actually butterflies that fly around you inside of the bio orb that they have there. And so butterflies with rainforest is kind of a really nice pairing to me. And I thought that the small size of the fish compared to the huge size of the hardscape the delicateness of the fish versus the rawness and toughness of rock. There's a really interesting contrast that makes both of them speak up louder. The fish's delicacy seems even more delicate. The rock's ruggedness seems even more rugged. Now, we're spending a lot of time without really adding a whole lot of more visual elements, but we really don't want this to fall on us once we start doing the harder stuff. So that's why it's worth it to take the time and energy to do it right now. Oh my God. Each rock is too nice. It hurts my heart. Goodbye. We'll never see you again. See, this is how a workshop always, at the beginning, you're like, nice and neat, and I want to show off such delicate and intricate work, and halfway through, you're like, okay, time to pour some pebbles in there. Let's get this out. Let's get a move on. So does everyone here know what the golden ratio is? Essentially, like, it's a rule of thirds in very general sense, but like basically you don't want to have things like too square or too flat. If things are a little bit off kilter, a little bit unbalanced, if like the strong points of the aquascape are placed 2/3 or 1/3 instead of like right in the middle, and also using triangles is also part of this. But like the more you can do those things, the more dynamic and interesting the design will look, is the general principle. But like, I'd say that, well, all good rules are meant to be broken. And there is a time where going straight down the middle, like putting an element right in the center, will have the biggest impact. And there are times when, off kilter sometimes isn't directly in line with it. And if you do too many of these, like if you do so many of these, it'll just come naturally to you. So to be perfectly honest, I think the golden ratio is always the first thing that we discuss in aquascaping topics and in like aquascaping basic series. But when you have like high-level aquascapers come and talk about the things that they're thinking about, we're almost never thinking about it, to be perfectly honest. I mean, everyone's different though. So I don't know. Maybe someone else will come in and give you a totally different perspective. Tommy plans to keep having awesome guests come in, so I'm sure that you'll hear lots of interesting things in the future. Okay, so see, I don't need that rock anymore because all of it is not moving. They don't want to move at all. Okay. And the really fun, annoying thing would be like, how do we cover all of this with rock later on? Well, there are some different ways to do it. We can discuss with Tommy which way makes the most sense here. But to be perfectly honest, like just for the photo, you won't see it even if you leave it like that. Or we can always just fit black sponge in there. All right. So I'm feeling pretty good about this. Now we can finally get on top of this, bring it up even one layer higher. Okay. No, I'm fine. For now. Let's see here. Well, we'll try to put it in. Okay. All right. So those are the options. Other option is this guy here. So you see how like just putting this in is already casting dark shadows that weren't there before. So like this might be better just because you're preserving more detail. What we could do is have this one like.
So when you're taking your final photo, you just use the fish tank lights, or are you setting up pro lights?
Usually strobes of some sort over the top, but it depends. Like, the only reason you would use like more powerful flash is because you want to get the fish captured crystal clear inside of the final photo. And so like when you have faster fish, more powerful lighting in order to get the shutter speed that you want in order to capture the fish becomes necessary. That said, there's also aquascapes that have very slow moving fish. And then it's much less important, right? In order to have, whew, nice. Okay. Oh, I kind of like that. All right. So essentially, like if I have like some slow moving angels that are super used to the aquarium, and they're not going to move a whole lot anyway, then I don't need a super fast shutter speed to catch the picture. You know, most camera equipment lights aren't calibrated the same way that our LED lights are, right? LED lights for the aquarium are often like infused with different types of colors to bring out the most of the fish and the plants. And so, you know, you can always do that adjustment when you take a raw photo, right? You have all the settings inside of the raw image data to work with to bring the colors back. So when you have a fast fish, you go with strobes to get the high shutter speed, snap them in place, and then you bring the color back in editing, right? But there is something to be said about the richness of lights that come from LED lights meant for the aquarium. So if you have very slow fish, and you're not going to go like, and you're not going super fast on the ripples on top, or something like that. Basically, when you're confident that you can take a crisp picture even at a slower shutter speed, then you can just not go with having flash units or strobes or anything on top of the aquarium, and you can just use the natural lights of the LED in order to get the rich colors that come from it. Okay, so I do really like this stone on top. So what I want to do is clearly delineate this group from this stone in back, okay? Because the same texture, the risk is that they all become one thing, you know? We want to make sure that the delineation is such that this is one thing in front, and this is something else back here. So making this dark and this bright helps to do that, to clearly cut between those things. But you have to be like aware and purposeful of doing that even at this stage. Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah. No problem, Tommy. Just use this. You get it. Yeah. Yeah. All right. I mean, it's like $3 at Home Depot or something like that. Okay. Okay. If you have water flow issues, yeah. Like Tommy said, just get another filter. Or find another place to hide a pump somewhere in the aquarium. Okay. So you're seeing the value of the tape, right? Just like, So to be perfectly honest, if this wasn't meant to be viewed publicly, I'd be tempted to just stuff any holes with black foam and be done with it. It's going to look the same in the picture anyway. For a public presentation, you have to be more careful, considerate. So Tommy, I don't know how you feel about this. One thing we could do is, that we don't have any silicone, but if you smash aqua soil, or you could just, we could just glue gravel to the side until we cover all the tape. But there's a number of ways to do it. To the point of being able to see the toilet paper, you can always smash aqua soil and cover on top, and then glue on top of it. Or if you have the landscaping gravel that I mentioned, you can just throw it on, glue it over. It's another nice way of seaming rock together so that it looks like it's seamless. Last year I made a Hawaii mountain aquascape called Echoes of the Pali, Kupinai Yoko Pali. And I think it was so funny because the reaction, I mean, people liked the aquascape itself, but when they saw the hardscape, they're like, oh my God, what the heck is this? I definitely recommend going to check that out. I have a video on the channel for the Master Skills series about it as well. What people were surprised about is how I made the flowing ridges of a Hawaii mountain landscape, and they all seemed to move together perfectly. And folks are like, how do you do that when the fundamental technique is combining different rocks like this, right? Well, the way I did it was, this, essentially. This is just the same basic skills, but then in the minutia, the final detailing at the end, make a putty out of aqua soil and crushed lava gravel in order to connect the seams together. Like when you have this foundational skills, like anything else becomes possible. Yeah, it's just a matter of dedication to the basics and then a bit of imagination to go beyond them. And that's also the reason why we spend so much time in the planning and thinking design step. Because you want to get to a certain point where it's not what can I make, but what can I think of? Because anything I can think of, I know I'll figure out a way to make it.
You exaggerate this spacing between the rocks so that the photography comes out better, because photography tends to flatten an image.
Yeah, like empty space and the use of empty space is one of the very most important things about this. Okay, Tommy, I think I'm ready for your bottle of super glue that has the nozzle on the end. When you're trying to get in between cracks like this, very hard to see, hard to reach, like this kind of tool is your friend.
Is high impact just high contrast?
Is high impact, high contrast? That's hard. I think contrast is part of what makes impact possible. You can think of if I had black, white, pure black paper, pure white paper here, that'd be the ultimate contrast, right? But it's not very high impact. In order to create impact and create like a sense of weight, it actually takes all aspects. Dark versus light, contrast. Big versus small, I guess that's also contrast. Thin, thick, like playing with all of those elements together is what brings out more impact. All right. That does not want to move, but we'll do one more to be extra paranoid. If you ever meet Fukada-san, he's like 1,000,000 times more paranoid than me. So I'm like, that'll work. But like, paranoia is a mother of invention too, I'd say. Don't be afraid, take action is one important thing, but be as paranoid as you can be is another value for an aquascaper. Okay, let's see. What I don't like about this is that it's looking really square here, okay? And that they're all ending like in the same place, and that it's ending right here. But what we're gonna do is like make continuation. See, like just that one stone there, like totally changes the dynamic of those rocks. So there'll be some type of continuation to improve that later, but won't worry about it right now. Because we have a much bigger worry to worry about, which is getting this guy into position. All right. Not yet. I will. I will definitely need help. Let's see. I think this looks nice, and also one more layer of paranoia. You can't even see that, that's fine. It's good that you can't see it. But no. Okay. Yeah, I'm thinking that at this point you really can't see what's going on back there, so it's just a matter of really, that stone is going to fit on top of this one, and we do not want it to budge. We do not want this one to budge at all. Also, don't panic about anything. Never panic. Never fear. See, this is why we need the cheap toilet paper. Okay. Yeah, no, it's actually on me because I forgot to super glue the base of this rock. Whew. Need to be more paranoid.
Who's your favorite aquascaper?
Takayuki Fukada. Tommy.
Is he going to stop competing?
He isn't really competing now. The question of whether he'll start competing again. The problem is that most of the international contests he's also a judge of, so. I didn't even check if it looks good from the front. Yeah, good enough. Yeah, thank you. Need that one there. And so the reason why I think the cheaper Junker toilet paper is better is because the nicer one is fluffy, so there's like pockets of air inside of it. You need to really mash all of the air out, otherwise what happened before might happen. But I am glad that we discovered this weakness before I started trying to put the main stone in. Okay. I'll even put a little one in here. Paranoia, folks. Aquaflora, or like Philippe Oliveira's old YouTube channel has a video of when we did an Iwagumi out there. And there was this one Frodo stone that we used. It was like about this big inside of a, and Frodo stone is not light. If you pick up the one that we had, it's not Hakai stone, but it's definitely heavy. Like to fit that in place at this angle, and like the whole audience was thinking like, oh my God. Actually, when Fukada-san and I were both lifting it into the aquarium, he was like, Steven, what are you doing? What are we doing? This is way too much. All right. Let's see here. And as I said, I kind of want to glue. I mean, this is kind of nice, yeah? But it would only be placed on this side, not on that side. And that's the side that we're going to need stuff for later on. So yeah, you can go in here. Oh, we could always do filler with your basalt lava, Tommy. But no, I think this is, let's stick with the Seidu. Okay, I'm just trying to make this rock touch both this rock and the wall in as many places as possible for gluing. There we go. Okay. Can you see it from the front? Oh yeah, you can kind of see that stone. Yeah, you're right. It doesn't look too bad. Yeah, but I don't like it. I see what you're saying. It connected it. Yeah, it did, but this would be better if you're trying to do that, I think. But the reason why I don't like that is that there's this pocket right here. It stops the escape, but we want the escape to like run. Like run and flow. This is like a spot where you want to go fast from front to back. So, yeah, but since we're working in the back and we're really caring more about stability than anything else, okay, I feel better about that. Visually, I'd say this is about where I want it now. So the reason why I didn't go with that old rock is because I felt like this would create a block over here. I really want this to run into the back, like in order to keep the sense of space going. So it's better to take time, use a smaller rock, fit it in a way where it doesn't eat that vital piece of space. Let's see, and they're touching in one place over here, so that's good.
What's the longest you've maintained a scape?
The longest I've maintained an aquarium, maybe like 5 months. I mean, I'd love to have my aquariums around longer, but I've only ever had the one in Tokyo. Now, I'll definitely have more time. Since I have 2 aquariums, I'll have more time and more ability to like keep one around. So I think I will enjoy that. Yeah, I feel like there's a few times off season where I kept one around for longer than that, but very hard to remember. Let's see. Let's see. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay, oh, yeah, so Tommy, if you could grab, I'm gonna lift it into the aquarium now, so if you could grab from the back, that would be good, yeah. Okay. Okay, let's settle down. So, maybe not here. Lower? Lower. Okay. Okay. You got it? Yeah. Yeah, right. No, we need to turn it more like this. Yeah, the real trick is figuring out how to do this when you don't have an assistant at home. Okay. Yeah, I think that's, well, maybe, technically, maybe a little bit lower. All right. No, too high. Okay. Try that with this hand. I got it.
You sure?
Yeah, I got it.
Sure?
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Okay, so now the rock is where we want it to be. The trick is
I don't trust the styrofoam, man.
keeping in place while also getting the other rocks in that we need in order to super glue it. Okay, so. Now, actually, here, what we're going to do, we're going to move the rock this way.
Even more?
Yeah. Okay. Actually, because it can go a little bit lower, Tommy. A little bit of rest. There we go. No, bring it lower. Okay. No. So what's going to happen is that this rock is going to be glued to a whole lot of rocks on the other side. Okay.
That'll be a lot.
Yeah, a lot. Like a lot. Okay, the most important thing at this stage is stabilizing. So we can do any aesthetic things at the end. I just need to get relief to Tommy's arms as soon as possible.
He is bulking up right now?
Yeah, bulk. Feel the pain, bro. Feel the pain. And this is the hardest, most intense part of an Iwagumi workshop. Once this is done, it's like, whew. Another technique you guys can use from the saltwater guys is epoxy or thick super glue with accelerator. I lied, we need more tape. Just gonna make sure it looks nice from the front. Oh, that looks so nice. That looks so nice, yes, okay, amazing. Yeah, but we want it to touch the tape. Let's worry about this stabilization more, Tommy. Trust me, it looks good from the front. Oh, I see what you're saying. It's kind of flopping around, yeah? Okay. All right. Okay. Let's see again. Front. Oh, yeah, that looks nice, but oh, that looks so good. Okay. Let's see here. Yeah, another thing to do, to be careful of when you're using super glue, guys, like the fumes rise after it starts to cure, so you gotta be careful not to breathe it in. It can really burn, and like, it can also set off the smoke detector. Yeah, I like to use the back of the tweezers too. Okay, so the issue is that I need to glue that in without killing the beautiful shadow that we have there. Yeah, so wait here. No, I got it. This is good. Okay. Again, if you can see any toilet paper, we'll just cover it later. But the important thing is stability. This cannot move. Cannot be allowed to move. The Indonesian guys who really pioneered this technique, a lot of them smoke. So there's like almost ASMR videos where they're smoking, they're bending the wood, they're using the lighter to make the wood soft and twisting it. Then they're gluing it, pull out the cigarette butt, stick it in between the wood, glue it. From my experience after using cigarette lighters, I actually think that the tissue paper is better, or the toilet paper is better. Let's just get it done for now. We can plant over it later too.
Moment of truth.
Oh, no. We need to do more before we get to the moment of truth. This is not ready for the moment of truth yet. Okay.
Any specific plant you have in mind?
Yeah, it's going to be mostly moss and HC and Monte Carlo, to be perfectly honest. If you go anything too big in this style, it is like going to just take away from the overall scale. I think you want some stem plants would be nice. Actually, because it's a cenote, I don't know if you guys saw. Yeah, okay. Because it's a cenote, like oddly, small lotus is an option. Very small leafed red lotus is an option that can work quite nice here. Yeah, no. Yeah, exactly. So this is going to connect over here and connect to this wall. Yeah, to be even more. Is your arm feeling better though? Okay. So I need a big one. Can you see this rock from the front? No? Okay, good. Yeah. Yeah, good.
Good luck.
Yeah. There is a lot more to do before those pieces of styrofoam come out though. And I have a perfect pocket here for the outflow. There are like some places where a curved one is easier. The place I'm reaching to right now, straight ones are better. So like, again, you can do this whole skate without the tape, but I think you see the benefit of, yeah.
What do you think separates the good from the great?
That's hard because there are many different types of great aquascapers. Like Ono-san and Fukada-san, if we have a chat, Yeah, they're from the same same group, the same team. If we have a chat between us, ooh, nice. He's got gravel. If we have a chat between us, like just drinking, right, at a bar afterwards, like they are on the same page because they, they've known each other for so long. So the same concepts around. We can talk about like impact. Ono-san can talk about impact. Can talk about like hardscaping techniques. There's one time where Ono-san came and visited me at my house, and he was going to be my photographer that year. He's like, Steven, you need this one rock here. And he put this like little tiny pebble in. And I was like, my God, that made everything a million times better. And Ono-san is not famous for his diorama work, right? But he's been with Fukada-san. He's been in the hobby long enough. He gets it, Same with Fukada-san. Like Fukada-san can talk fish, loves talking fish in a group, can talk about like the things Ono-san loves to talk about in terms of learning from nature and photography and the rest. But if you have either of those guys do a workshop, they'll pretty much stick to their wheelhouse. Like Fukada-san will never want to talk about, he won't make a whole workshop about fish, He won't make a whole workshop about photography and studying nature. There's different places where you can spend your time and energy and focus. And even some and that's just between Ono-san and Fukada-san, between people from other clubs, totally different approaches. What they care about, what makes a good and great aquascaper different, might be totally different. I don't know if Dennis talked about this when he was here, but if you are talking to Dennis about what makes a great aquascaper, or a great hobbyist for this hobby, I mean, he recognizes the art of this, right? But I think to him, in his lifetime, to be truly great means to be able to handle all of the different types of difficult plants that he has too, right? Whereas I would never say that. I'm like, if it grows, it looks nice, and the emotional tones I want to hit are often hit easiest by familiar, very common plants. So it's like a non-issue for me, okay? I think there's truth in both of that. I think like even in art, there's different ways to be great. I've met, aquascapers who are fully committed to the Dutch style as well, and who I thought, man, this guy is like appreciating things and looking at things that I will never care about in my whole life. His work is amazing. So it's a hard question to answer. I think like the level of feeling though, and also even a once great aquascaper, even for me, will I be able to maintain the same level of motivation and energy poured into the hobby every year as like the years I was trying my hardest to win? It's hard. So I think that a great aquascaper is not great his whole life. And I think that there's many different things. That's, again, the depth of the hobby that makes it so amazing is that there's so many different aspects to it. And so many things we can learn to love. But I mean, like, there's even scapes that Amano did that I'm like, what the heck was this? To like the conversation we were having before. Did we really have to get rid of those Riccia scapes? I mean, they were so awesome. But now, like, nobody, not the judges, not the contestants, nobody wants to use Riccia. No one wants to bring those scapes back into vogue. I love them. In my 2019 Aquascape, World Rank 15, Amano-gawa, which was that river scene, only Japanese plants, only plants that were native to Japan. And the three main species were Potamogetengai, hairgrass, and Riccia. Especially hairgrass and Riccia is a core combination from the Nature Aquarium books, the original books that Amano wowed the world with. And Potamogetengai, Riccia, and hairgrass is a combination that he used in many great aquascapes of that time. Gone. It's gone from the hobby. But that's also why I named that layout Amano-gawa, Amano's River. But the word Amano-gawa also means Milky Way in Japanese. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna need to. You don't have black foam, do you?
Yes, we do.
Oh, you do? Okay. You have expanding foam too, right? Maybe we should just let's go for it, bro. let's do it. Okay. I was telling Tommy before that, man, I hate expanding foam. It's like my least favorite. Maybe because the first time I used it, I accidentally stepped in it. That shoe, like some fell on the ground and I accidentally stepped on it while like focusing like this. So like those shoes were ruined, you know? But like there are times, like now, where that's just the best thing to do. Just like fill all the cracks with expanding foam.
Where do you want it?
Yeah, all back there, I'd say, for sure. And there might be some spots up front where I can see it better from here that would definitely want to. Now it's gonna expand, obviously by the name, but once it dries, it's easy to break off or push in. You can either push it in when it's half dry, or you can like rip it off completely when it's fully dry, and it'll look really nice. In fact, there are some fake rockscapes that just have ripped off expanding foam that's painted on top. Yeah, actually, I mean, just like cover that whole wall with it and then rip it off at the end. Will be probably the easiest way to deal with the wall over here. Okay. But to do this side, we need to take this styrofoam out. How solid does it feel?